Welcome, welcome, everyone. Today is Tuesday, February 24th, 2026, and I am Solid Blue Sister, and welcome to Keep It Solid. And with me today again is my friend, Dread Empath.
Hello, everyone.
So, y'all, okay, so this is Black History Month, but next week I'm going to be changing Keep It Solid back into my turn to talk. And we still have topics that trigger people, and we're gonna push, whatever. But since it's Black History Month, I just want to know the topic of today is justifying the unjustifiable. So, why do people feel that they have to justify, or why do people justify things that they know damn good and well that they shouldn't do? And I'm talking about anything from, you know, you have people who still say that the Holocaust didn't happen. You have people who say, like Ron DeSantis says, that slavery, gave people a trade. Like, okay, we learned our trade. Now we're going to go and open up our own business. You have people who, children who stand around, during recess and watch another student bully another student. You have people who you have teachers in the classroom who belittle students, and you have teachers who know about it, but they don't do anything. You have people who are in a domestic violence situation where one parent will look away, or sometimes encourage another parent beating on their child or starving their child. Why do people tend to justify unjustifiable behavior? So,
I think one of the obvious answers to that could be fear. And I say that in regards to the DV situation. In domestic violence situations, it's not uncommon for the parent for one parent to not only abuse the spouse, but the children. So what starts to happen? It becomes a form of Stockholm syndrome. Well, don't make too much noise or else daddy will get mad, or mommy. Let's talk about that. We could go there, that women can be perpetrators of domestic violence and child abuse as well. So don't make too much noise because it'll trigger them. You broke this. You know that your mom doesn't like that. You know that your father doesn't like that. So it's a form of fear. So that's where the justification comes in. And the other part is people justify what's in their hearts, what they would do.
interesting.
And I'll go a step further. Look at how people defend celebrities that they know are dead wrong. Dead wrong. They know that what this person said was wrong, what this person did was wrong, but they justify it and they defend it. And I said this on one of my videos on TikTok. I said, you know why a lot of you justify it? Because you know that if you had that money, that power, that prestige, that you would do it. Because you feel like because you have that money and that what do you call it? That money I can't think of the word. When basically when you can move people, you have that influence. You have that money and that influence. You would use your money and influence to do whatever it is that you want to do. So therefore you justify it when these celebrities do it or high-ranking individuals do it.
Okay, so let's talk about R. Kelly. Since you just said that, let's talk about R. Kelly and let's talk about Diddy. Were people justifying, because in R. Kelly's in his scenario, considering that he got away with this for like 20 years, and you had police officers that were involved that looked the other way. Was it money because you even had parents who basically, in my opinion, sold their daughters to this, so was it money? Was it, what was it where you know that these people are doing something wrong? Even with Epstein, that this island that you're being invited to, that these are underage girls and you're doing things to them. How do you justify that? I mean, is it greed? Is it money? Is it, well, so and so's going to be there, and do you know that that guy's going to be there, and she's going to be there, and oh my God, and oh, I get a chance to walk the red carpet. I'll be behind them, but I'll get a chance to walk the red carpet. I mean,
yeah. People want to be parallel to these people.
but you're parallel to evil.
Doesn't matter. People, you have to understand, like, okay, with Diddy and R. Kelly, I have stopped arguing with people online because what they know these men did to women and girls, and they're grasping at straws to defend it. The first thing they say, well, they knew what they were doing. They knew what they were getting into, so they justify it in that way. Oh, well, they didn't have to take the money, so they justify it in that way. And I always give them this analogy. Everybody would have been okay if those men were not predators, period. If someone is a drug addict and you put cocaine in front of them, they're going to sniff it, right? They wouldn't be an addict if somebody hadn't introduced it to them or they hadn't sorted it out. Same thing with these guys. They are predators. So people like, well, you knew what they was accused of, so they kind of got what they deserved. They justify it, and it's, like I said, it's unjustifiable. How do you justify peeing on a 14-year-old girl? How do you justify Diddy kicking that woman while she's down? How do you justify the very disgusting things that I will not repeat here that Epstein did to girls, to children? And that's what I always say when they're like, oh, these were young women. No. And that's another reason, that's another way of people justifying it. They try to use pretty language. Oh, these young women. No. We are going to call them what they are. Children. Girls.
Okay, so let's talk about the hello Chuckles. Let's talk about they knew what they were doing. So should the age of consent be brought down to 16? Like in the UK, you're grown when you're 16. So should the age of consent be brought down to 16, 13, 12? Because you have judges who sit on a bench, and when a 12-year-old, 11, 10-year-old girl gets raped, they literally say, well, what was she wearing? She's 10.
No, the age of consent should not be brought down, because this is how I look at it. In order to enter into any contract, you have to be 18 years of age. Now, we know that biologically, your frontal lobe, which is right here, does not close until you're 25. So your decision making is all over the place. You're operating on puberty, hormones, all of that stuff. So you can't enter into a contract, marriage, without being emancipated or a signature from your parents. You can't enter the military. You can't do anything until you're 18. So how is it that people justify, oh, well, she's 16, that's the age of consent, so it's not a crime?
Okay, so then should children who, go into a classroom and shoot it up, or if a child, murders their family, let's talk about Sandy Hook. The perpetrator was a teenager, I do believe.
He was
should
19.
he? Okay, all right. But if his frontal lobe is not fully, if he's, oh, okay,
Because
Columbine.
one of them were 7. One of them was
Okay,
17. One
okay.
was 18.
So you have Columbine, and I think his friend was 16. I think you had a 16 and a 17-year-old. So
Right.
should, even though they ended up killing themselves or whatever, should they have been held responsible for what they did? Should they be, oh my God, they're monsters? Or should their parents be held responsible? Because see, back during Columbine, if those two kids have not have died, they would have been put away, but nothing would have happened to their parents. Only thing that would have happened to their parents is their parents probably would have had to sell their house and move, but they would not have been held responsible back in 1999.
You see, this is where I think that nothing, that's the part that isn't black and white. And I hate that it's not black and white. There are some gray areas, because did these parents know that their children were in there building a bomb, that they were going to go in and make history? And I hate that I have to word it that way. They made history. This was one of the deadliest school shootings in American history. So I'm a firearm. I'm a gun owner, but my gun is locked up. The only person that has the key is me. Nobody knows how to get into that safe but me. So if I have a child in here, 10, 11, 12 years old, and I knowingly leave that gun out, I am responsible. But if I lock that gun up and I have no inclination that this child is going to do anything of the sort, am I responsible, or is that kid responsible? That kid, and then it becomes, did they plan it? What happened? Did they snap? Did the school know that this child or these children were being bullied and picked on and they did nothing? And that's where all of these things, is there ever a justification for murder, for killing someone? Yes,
Okay,
there is a justification for it.
there's never a justification for murder, but can you say, again, it comes down to their age. Is it morally right for a defense attorney to go in and say, now this 11-year-old child didn't know what they were doing when they took this gun and pointed it at his little sister and pulled the trigger. He thought it wasn't loaded. He was just playing. But it's on record that, like you said, the gun was locked up. The kid got into his parents' keys, or whatever, or they were responsible parents who said guns harm people. This is not a toy. Stay away from it. Blah 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 blah. And they hit the safe, hit the gun. But this kid wanted to find this gun, and he pointed it at his little sister and pulled the trigger.
There you go. Can't justify it. And should the parents be held responsible? When the parents did everything in their power to prevent this, no, they shouldn't be held responsible. When parents are careless with firearms and things of that nature, they should be held responsible. It's no different than if like you said, justifying the unjustifiable. So if a father teaches his son, hey, if that woman is dressed in a certain way and she carries herself a certain way, she's asking for it. So he's planted that seed in his son's mind that no doesn't mean no. If she's wearing that means yes, whether she's yelling no or not. Did he unknowingly contribute to the rape of that young woman or many young women? Can't justify it.
But I would say yes. That's just like children who grow up in a racist household where they consistently hear racial slurs. They're going to start doing it. So their parents are responsible. But Chuckle says selective service and registration to vote are both available when you're 17. I agree with the guest that the brain is still developing until 25. Okay, so then should we not you know recruit 18-year-olds into the service? Should it be a law that even if you get your parents' consent when you're 16 or 17 and they sign off on it, that you cannot go until you're 25?
There's
You
an
know,
idea.
and what about people who teach their children to shoot when they're like 10 because they go hunting, or because they want it to teach their children how to use a firearm because they want to make sure that if the parent is not there, they have protection. What about that?
Okay.
So I mean, like you said, there's a lot of gray areas, but if this were to come up in court where people say, yeah, but he still killed, that person, or she still did that. And should children who commit murder, should they be sent to a facility where they're able to get out when they're 18 and go live freely? Or should they go to that facility and then be transferred to an adult facility? Like murder is murder. That person is still dead.
Right. Right. And you know what? You know that I have my degree in criminology, all this stuff, and that was a very, very sensitive topic about whether or not we should convict teenagers. Do they deserve a second chance? What was the guy's name? I think his name was Rod. I know his name was Rod something, Rod Tyler, but it was the vampire murders. And long story short, him, his girlfriend, a bunch of kids that were into vampirism, they were sucking each other's blood. They bludgeoned his girlfriend's parents, beat them both to death with a crowbar, to the point where they were almost unrecognizable, took the car, went to another state, everything. Rod did that when he was 16. Rod is about 41 now, and he is still in prison. They will not let him out, and mainly because he was so unremorseful when he was 16. He laughed in court, licked his tongue out at the camera. He was a real piece of work. But now at 41, and I think he's older than that, he has seen the error of his ways. So
But can you say that he's acting out and doing everything for the camera because he was young, dumb, and stupid at 16?
yes, because now at this age, he's like, I've spent more than half my life in prison because of what I did when I was 16. I wish that I could take it back. I wish that her parents were still alive. I wish, I was a dumb kid. I was ignorant. I was this, I was that. But now how do we justify if he were to get parole? Is he no longer a threat to society? Or are we rolling the dice here? Another young man, he was taking antidepressant meds, and he beat an elderly woman to death. But he went back where he left her and said, "Are you okay?" He heard her moaning, and he said, "Well, F you then." And he left. He's still in prison. And they said, well, had he not been on these antidepressant meds, which were known to cause aggression and suicide ideation, this woman would not have met her demise. That young man is still in prison.
Okay.
How do they justify if they let him out?
Okay, so then should we go to the pharmaceutical places and say, stop creating drugs that will cause people to have these delusions to commit suicide or commit murder?
No, because they let you know, hey, taking this drug might cause suicide ideation, vivid dreams. If you have
Okay,
any of
okay,
this,
so
contact your doctor right away.
okay, so should the doctors? I mean, I'm trying to play both
You're
sides.
going down the line.
Right. So if it's possible for this to happen and you don't know it's going to happen until this person starts taking this drug, why even create a drug in the first place that's going to possibly create those issues?
The justification for that is, okay, it it happens, but then you have success stories of people who couldn't get out of bed, wouldn't take a shower, but they started taking this drug and they started taking this antidepressant, and now they're living better lives. They're showing up, they're feeling lighter, their moods are stabilized. It's a slippery slope.
What do you think about parents who, and I did a show on this on My Turn to Talk about a year and a half ago, and one of my guests that was on the panel said that, Silent, you should be ashamed of yourself. He totally ringed me because I said, if my son committed murder, I would support him, but I'm not going to justify his behavior and I'm not going to try to keep him out of jail. And he thought that I was just this horrible parent who would do that to their child. So how do you justify people who know their child committed murder? All the evidence is there. That person could have even have copped to it and said, yes, I did it. But they're still sitting behind their child, in court saying, he doesn't belong in prison. He shouldn't do that. I mean, how do you justify? I mean, is it love or is it misplaced loyalty to your child?
I think that it's just for some parents, they can't set that aside. I know someone very personally that no matter what their child did, you couldn't say anything. You couldn't say nothing to her kid. You couldn't say nothing to or about her child. Even if her child had done something to you personally, if you decided to hold her child accountable or say, you know what, fuck that kid, I ain't got to deal with it, that's your child, she would like argue you down about it. And I used to tell her, listen, that's your kid. You choose to deal with that. You had her. Nobody has to deal with that. So I have, unfortunately, I have my cousin got murdered back in November, and I already know when we go to court, because his killers have been caught, I already know it's probably not going to go well in that courtroom because these kids are young. My cousin was only 19 years old, but one of his killers is the killers are 15, 17, and 23. So I can only imagine the pure ignorance that's going to go on in that courtroom because they're mad at us for being angry at them. Meanwhile,
okay, but you also said that your mind is not developed until they're 25.
right, their mind isn't developed, but that family, y'all minds are developed. And if the shoe was on the other foot, if my cousin had taken one of their lives, you would want justice. You would be angry. You would be hurt. So
Right.
we don't have a right to be angry and want justice. You guys are going to feel some kind of way because we're going to be happy with, when they get sentenced. And there's no guarantee that what did I say, 16, 19, something like that. There's no guarantee they're going to get life. They may only get 15 or 20 years. But guess what? They're still able to come out and live a life. My cousin is gone forever. In 15 years, he'll still be gone. In 15 years, y'all, even at 16, you'll be 31. You'll still be able to have a life, have a family, have children, all of that. He'll never have that.
Well, see, and that's what I say. It's like when you try to justify something that it's like, are you seriously going to sit up here and say that how could you do this, to this person? I did a show on My Turn to Talk where I was talking about DUIs, and I had two people. One person was on the panel, and one person was one person was on the panel. One person in the chat they were opposed. They're like, how can you sit here and get upset over something like that? Well, okay, I just lost a brother in October 24 who
Was a victim
of a DUI, and he hung on for 3 years, but his quality of life was just gone. I mean, the person who he was and the person that he was when he passed was not the same person. So whether they're a child getting behind the wheel or an adult getting behind the wheel, you maim somebody. And not only that, not only did my brother pass away, in that everything that was going on, this person also made it where another person lost a limb, so they're walking around without an arm. And the other person, they were in the hospital for like 7 months, but the driver of the car walked away. They were able, and it's always like that. The driver always walks away. I don't know if it's because they're so drunk that their limbs or whatever. So, whatever.
That's actually what it is. They're so drunk that, we're sober. So when we see that car coming towards us,
we're bracing for impact, and
they're tensing up. They're just, their body is already relaxed. You can't justify I'm sorry. No,
I mean,
you cannot justify
but even though they did go to jail, but now, even as we speak, they're going through a murder trial or a
manslaughter.
A manslaughter charge because of my brother. And I say this, because literally the family was on pins and needles for three years, because when he passed away, it was because of this accident.
Right.
So, and the family's like, oh, but we're so sorry, but he's dead. Oh, but we didn't mean, but yeah, but she's walking around without an arm. So how do you justify getting behind a wheel of a car and you're drunk? I'm not talking about you had a glass of wine at dinner, or even two glasses, and you were able to drive home.
No, we're talking about your platter,
your liquor, and you're just, and then the thing about it is, you have people who consistently get DUIs. Their license is revoked, but they're still getting behind a car. But yet you have people who still justify, well, he was drunk. He didn't know what he was doing.
He knew. No. And I'm going to tell you why. Because, okay, I have a big cup of water right here. Okay. My stomach lets me know when I've had enough. I'm going to get crampy, might get a little whatever. My body's going to let me know when I've had enough. Alcohol does the same. Alcohol lets you know when you have enough. Okay, your mind, your room starts spinning a little bit. You lose a little bit of your balance, cognitive. Right, that's off. Everything is off. So before you get behind the wheel of that car that you are impaired. And I'm no angel, folks. I have driven under the influence. I'm glad that I didn't hurt myself or anyone else. If I had hurt someone, I would have deserved exactly what I got, because I knowingly, my body told me, you probably shouldn't be driving. But I'm like, I don't feel like sleeping in the car. I don't feel like staying at anybody's house. I'm going to go ahead and drive home. Luckily, I made it home. But one split second, somebody else may not have, or I may not have. There's no justification, none, to get behind the wheel of a car under the influence. And now more than ever, with Uber, with Lyft, here's a little bit of education, folks. You can sleep in your car and be drunk as hell, as long as the keys are not in the ignition. As long as those keys are in the glove box, because a lot of us have key fobs, as long as those keys are not in the ignition or that car is not running, you will not get a DUI. But even if that car is at rest, you will still get a DUI. One of my friends, her brother, he's about 31, 32. He has to use a breathalyzer for his car to go, because he's had so many DUIs. His car will not start unless you blow into it. To me, that's a problem.
Well, not only is that a problem, it's also embarrassing. If I'm getting into the car with you, all of a sudden you blowing into something, I'm like, whoa, hold on, I'm not driving with you. I like what Chuckles said. He says, I appreciate shows like this. You're actually both in agreement with bouncing the ball back and forth to examine all aspects. Yes. So, okay. So let's go back a moment and dang, I just lost my train of thought. Hold on, y'all. It's coming back to me. I just lost my train of thought because you said something. Dang.
Give her a minute, folks.
I have seriously lost my train of thought. You said something. I just it totally went.
Was it in regards to the drunk driving thing?
It was about drunk driving. Okay. Anyway, all right. So it will come back to me.
Okay.
All right. So let's switch over to yeah, y'all. I'm gonna talk about racism for a moment here. So, why do you think that you have people out there, and I'm going to repeat something that someone said to me, and when this person said this, I had to shake my head. So we were talking about racism, and I brought up Native Americans and this land that is America. And I said how the land belonged to them first, and how California and Texas was part of Mexico. And this person said, well, the white man didn't take it. They conquered it. They didn't colonize. They conquered it. And you look at stuff like that, and I, I actually started laughing, and I said, "You're serious right now," and they were. How do you, and if this person is listening, I'm just going to say it because I'm going to ask the question: how do you justify stupidity? I mean, how do you justify? So So is it okay then for people who were conquered to be burned out of their homes, to, you know, be forced away from their land because you're I'm bigger and I'm stronger, so I'm going to take it away from you. I'm white, so therefore. How do you justify that?
First of all, when I hear the word conquer, I think of two nations at war. The indigenous people were not at war with white people. They welcomed them. They got tricked. They got bamboozled, but they didn't get conquered. So you can't justify stupidity. Because, well, no. No, you can't justify stupidity. It's willful. You can't justify willful ignorance. Because Google is free and Google is your friend.
Okay, so George and I had this conversation on a show a while back, even though he has now come around to my way of thinking on this particular subject. Um, George said that there's, no such thing as stupid people. I was like, are you kidding me? And I know he was trying to play double advocate and stuff, but yes, there are stupid people. So again, are you justifying stupidity? Are you justifying? I mean, because okay, let me ask this: is there a difference between stupidity and ignorance?
Yes.
What is the difference?
When you're ignorant to something, you just don't know. When you're just stupid, you don't care to know, or you don't care about the facts. For instance, I'm ignorant to how to embalm a body. I can negate that. I can stop that ignorance by going to school for mortuary science, and then I will know how to embalm someone. But if I go to school for mortuary science and learn how to embalm someone and then decide, well, you know what, I'm just gonna fill the body with water. That's stupid. Get it? Good analogy.
Okay, all right, okay, but hold on. Chuckle says no justification at all. It's the worst form of hubris. That even ties back into the predators. I conquered that person. Now they submit to me in bed. Makes me sick. Good point, Chuckles. Good point. So good point. So okay. So stupidity is defined as a lack of intelligence, understanding, or good judgment, often characterized by foolish, irrational, and senseless behavior. Um, so, is there a difference between being stupid and uneducated?
Yes. Uneducated can be fixed.
You don't think so you don't think that stupidity can be fixed? Because the reason why I asked that is because I think a lot of educated people are stupid.
That's true. That's true. Hmm.
Is there a difference between being ignorant and dumb? I mean, and I'm throwing this out there because again, people they justify stupid behavior, they justify dumb behavior, they justify their ignorance or lack of intelligence, and
Okay.
so
And ignorant is defined as lacking knowledge or awareness in general, uneducated or unsophisticated. Okay, so I have to change my analogy then. Because uneducated.
Okay, Chuckle says willful ignorance. Saw this last night. A lot of poor think they are smart by avoiding a scam by not being educated.
Yeah. And uneducated, lacking in education, or poorly educated. So you can change it. Does it go into, is it like to me, is it like a conundrum? Like you're stupid if you choose to remain uneducated and willfully ignorant. See what, you know?
I like the way you put. I mean, no, because again, you just have to look back at why people justify the behavior of what other people are doing. And what was one thing that I saw? They said, oh, it wasn't a big deal. They'll say, oh, that wasn't a big deal. Excuse me, that person is one of the most dumbest and stupid people that I know. What they did was just downright ignorant. Oh, but it wasn't a big deal.
Yes,
Or again, they say they blame the victim. They want to say that the person deserved it. People don't deserve to be murdered. People don't deserve to be raped.
right.
No one deserves it. I don't care how you look. I don't care, what your political beliefs are, whatever. No one deserves that type of violence.
Right. And the what's going on in Jalisco, Mexico with the cartel leader that just got murdered or just got killed or whatever. They're telling people in Puerto Vallarta to stay indoors, and Jalisco to stay indoors because they're setting fires, they're shooting people. Americans may not be safe. How do you justify that? I saw somebody saying, well, and you can guess who it was. They're like, well, they shouldn't be over there anyway. Ain't we about to go to war with them? And I'm like, what does that have to do with anything? Does that mean that people who went on vacation, some of these people went for fertility treatments, they're there, for business or pleasure? Does that mean that if something happens to them, it's justified? It's justifiable? We should be able to go wherever we want. Okay, if certain places are dangerous, yes, you avoid them. But nobody got on the plane with the thought, hey, a cartel leader is gonna get killed, and now we're in danger. You can't justify that.
I mean, and it's interesting because you have other countries who are saying, "Don't come to America."
Yeah.
Because a lot of other countries are really scared and concerned about our shootings that we have. You could be walking down the street and all of a sudden, you get shot. So, I'm reading everything that Chuckles is like seriously typing here.
I like
Chuckles. Hopefully educate the ignorant. The damaged brain may refuse to retain sanity and therefore makes their own truths, like being a vampire. Okay, I did like this one that he said. He said, ignorant versus dumb. Yes, my example, I met someone who always votes the right because they literally believe it's wrong to vote against the right. I cannot convince them otherwise.
That is dumb. Because that means, let's just, okay, they will always vote for the right because they think it's wrong to vote against them. That means that they will vote against their own interest, even when it's in their face.
But not if they think that they're not voting against their own interest. See, to me, my, and I'm gonna get flack on this. I think people who vote for the right, the way the right is now, are voting for their color. They're not voting for any issues. They're voting their color.
I saw a video. This lady, white lady, she said she was on there bawling her eyes out. I thought Trump was going to help people like me, and now I'm suffering. You thought that it was just going to be the people that look like me, that are Hispanic. You thought that he was going to pick out his favorites, which you think are white people, and everybody else was going to get the crap end of the stick. And that's not what happened. So you're absolutely right.
So, okay. I know what I was going to ask, and I'm looking for this video to play before we sign off. It wasn't about DUI, it was about wars. Do you think wars are justifiable?
No.
No war, whatever. No war at all is justifiable.
Anybody dropping bombs on it, I mean, I don't know how anybody's going to feel about this. I believe in defending yourself. Retaliation is a thing. That, to me, that's the only time war is justified. When somebody's dropping bombs on somebody, then let's go to war. But when you start dropping bombs on men, women, and children who have nothing to do with anything, they're getting up, they're going to work, they're going to school, they're going to the park, they're going for ice cream, they're just being people. There is no justification for it. There is no justification for Trump going into Venezuela and snatching up those people. Oh, it was the drugs, it was the drugs, it was the drugs. There have been drugs coming into the United States from everywhere. Why you don't have that same smoke for Canada? Because drugs come in from Canada, drugs come in from everywhere.
Okay,
Venezuela without oil.
let me ask this then. Is it justifiable for another country to go into another country because the country doesn't like what your country's doing?
No.
So
First
that
of all,
means that
no.
so that means that technically that the United States should not have been in Afghanistan. We should not have been in Iran. What Saddam Hussein was doing to his own people, let them figure it out. I mean, should we have been in any? I mean, should we have been in Vietnam? Should we have fought World War? I mean, just so many things. Should we? Just because if Saddam Hussein was killing his people, why was it our issue? Was it wrong of us, or were we justified in going there?
Hey, listen, they want to fight a war? Fight one right here at home. You want to fight a war? How about you fight the war on poverty? Fight the war on homelessness. Fight the war on people not being able to afford education, people not being able to afford groceries. How about you fight the war on racism, which we are still fighting an uphill battle? Because let's be realistic here. It's a lot of countries that they got their own stuff with them, but they see how America treats minorities and people of color. If they decided to come over here and drop bombs on the White House or the Pentagon, would that be, I mean, since, hey, we don't like, we America, we don't like how you treat your people there. What if they said, hey, we don't like how you treat black people. We don't like how you treat gay people, trans people, Hispanic people, what you did to the indigenous people. What's good for the goose is good for the gander, no?
No, I mean, and again, it's like weapons of mass destruction. I haven't heard that term in a long time. I mean, seriously. I mean, again, I'm just asking. So this is a video that I wanted to play before we sign off. It's a video that I've always, even though it was an HBO show, and I think it made a point, and it's a video that I've always kept in my little arsenal here. So. Oh, sorry, wrong one.
The New York Jets.
No, I'm going to hold you to an answer on that. What makes America the greatest country in the world?
Well, Lewis and Sharon said it. Diversity and opportunity and freedom and freedom.
I'm not letting you go back to the airport without answering the question.
Well, our Constitution is a masterpiece. James Madison was a genius. The Declaration of Independence is, for me, the single greatest piece of American writing. You don't look satisfied.
One's a set of laws and the other's a declaration of war. I want a human moment from you. What about the people? Why is America
Not the greatest country in the world, Professor. That's my answer.
You're saying...
Yes.
Let's talk about...
Fine. Sharon, the NEA is a loser. Yeah, it accounts for a penny out of our paycheck, but he gets to hit you with it anytime he wants. It doesn't cost money. It costs votes. It costs airtime and column inches. You know why people don't like liberals? Because they lose. If liberals are so fucking smart, how come they lose so goddamn always?
Hey.
And with a straight face, you're going to tell students that America is so star-spangled awesome that we're the only ones in the world who have freedom? Canada has freedom. Japan has freedom. The UK, France, Italy, Germany, Spain, Australia, Belgium has freedom. So 207 sovereign states in the world, like 180 of them have freedom.
All right.
And yeah, you, sorority girl, just in case you accidentally wander into a voting booth one day, there's some things you should know. And one of them is, there is absolutely no evidence to support the statement that we're the greatest country in the world. We're 7th in literacy, 27th in math, 22nd in science, 49th in life expectancy, 178th in infant mortality, 3rd in median household income, number 4 in labor force, and number 4 in exports. We lead the world in only 3 categories: number of incarcerated citizens per capita, number of adults who believe angels are real, and defense spending, where we spend more than the next 26 countries combined, 25 of whom are allies. Now, none of this is the fault of a 20-year-old college student, but you nonetheless are, without a doubt, a member of the worst generation ever. So when you ask what makes us the greatest country in the world, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Yosemite? Sure used to be. We stood up for what was right. We fought for moral reasons. We passed laws, struck down laws for moral reasons. We waged wars on poverty, not poor people. We sacrificed. We cared about our neighbors. We put our money where our mouths were, and we never beat our chest. We built great big things, made ungodly technological advances, explored the universe, cured diseases, and we cultivated the world's greatest artists and the world's greatest economy. We reached for the stars, acted like men. We aspired to intelligence. We didn't belittle it. It didn't make us feel inferior. We didn't identify ourselves by who we voted for in the last election, and we didn't scare so easy. We were able to be all these things and do all these things because we were informed by great men, men who were revered. First step in solving any problem is recognizing there is one. America is not the greatest country in the world anymore. Enough?
One of my favorite videos.
Okay, so it is. I think it is a very powerful video, but I do disagree on a lot of things where he said that America used to be great. I don't think America was ever great, because you do have to fight for the right to vote. When you have to fight for the right to use a water fountain, when a 14-year-old child is murdered because he supposedly whistled at a white woman, that's not a great country to me. You know, so again, but I understand what Jeff Daniels was saying in that clip, and I think it was a very powerful clip. But how do you justify, or how do you not justify some of the things that he was saying? Like when he started, and then the woman next to him was like, well, hold on, like, what are you going to say? I mean, is he not saying that it's not true? Is he lying about the things that he said?
He's not. And while we're talking about what's justified and unjustified, like you said, you have certain countries we'll take this for instance. Birth rates are declining. So they want women of childbearing age to start having more children. More children, more children, more children. How can you justify telling somebody to have more children when daycare used to be $500 a month, now it's $500 a week. So that's $2,000 to $2,500 a month. How can you justify telling someone to have children when they can't afford childcare? When a small can of formula is $40. You want people to have children, but you don't want to give them away to afford said children. You don't want to educate these children. You don't want to give these children free lunches. You want to yell about drug use, but back in, what was it, between 2001 and 2015, the opioid crisis exploded. You want to have a war on drugs, but you allowed Purdue Pharma to push the narrative that OxyContin, only less than 1% of people got addicted. So what war on drugs were there? You fueled drugs. You fueled addiction. And what they did was, it was like having a freight train go 70 miles an hour with no brakes. Now, we got to stop it. How? And instead of America saying, hey, we fueled this opioid crisis, now we're going to kick the can and blame Mexico for fentanyl. We probably wouldn't have had a problem with fentanyl had we not first had a problem with Oxy, which made a lot of people millionaires. Billionaires, if we're talking about Purdue Pharma. How do you justify it? You don't. You can't.
So why do people keep trying or keep thinking they have a drop the mic moment when it's like, you just look stupid. You are so ignorant.
Because if they push those talking points of those high-ranking individuals that are responsible for this country, they feel as though they sound smart. And what they fail to realize is those people don't sound smart to some of us. They sound just as ignorant, just as stupid, just as uneducated and uninformed, or just willfully blind. They have the old head in the sand, the ostrich thing. Just tuck your head.
So again, is that stupidity? Are you just dumb, or are you ignorant?
I think it's a little bit of all. I think it's a combination of all of it.
Okay, I'm going to ask a question. I'm going to put you on the spot. It's a yes or no question. And I'm going to ask you 3 questions, and I will ask you 2. Or I will answer them. Do you think you're an ignorant person?
No.
Do you think you have ever been ignorant of anything?
Yes.
Okay. Do you think you're a stupid person?
No.
Do you think you're a dumb person?
No.
Do you think you are a smart person?
Yes.
Okay. All right. No, I do not think I am an ignorant person. Have I been ignorant? Am I ignorant about certain things? Yes, I am. Do I think I'm stupid? No, I do not. Do I think I am dumb? No, I do not. Do I think I am smart? Yes, I do. So now that we've answered those questions, um, do you think people would look at us from answering those questions and think that we think too highly of ourselves?
Yes, they would. But it depends on who you're asking. If you're asking someone who understands the cornerstones of critical thinking, they would admire us for being able to say, at one time or another, we were ignorant to certain things. They would appreciate our transparency. Someone who doesn't understand the cornerstones of critical thinking and can set aside their biases against whatever it is that we're talking about, they're going to say that we speak too highly of ourselves and that we don't know what we're talking about.
Okay. All right. Okay, y'all. So we're going to wrap it up, but this is another book that you guys should pick up. And I know, some people like to read. I like to read books. I can't do the Kindle thing. I just can't. So, I can't do the audio book thing, even though I do like listening to some of those AI dramas on YouTube. But I can't do an audio book. But this is another book that you all should check out. Mistakes were made, but not by me. Okay? And why we justify foolish beliefs, bad decisions, and hurtful acts. This is a book that you guys it's an interesting read. I have some things that I've underlined and I come back to. But yeah. Anyway, as always, Dread, thank you very, very much. Next week, I am going to go back to my original format of my turn to talk. So Keep It Solid will be put on the back burner and I will be plugging into Podbean. So that is what I will be doing for, instead of Keep It Solid, it will be my turn to talk. And as always, on Saturdays, Friendly Differences podcast, where Dread is one of my co-hosts. See, I have to have her now because I have this window of opportunity with her right now. So I have to grab her when I can. And this is being broadcast on GCPR, Ghost Club Productions Radio, where every voice matters. Shout out to Thomas the Villain Bishop.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone, for joining today. Chuckles, thank you. You were busy. You were busy today. Let's see what else. Other than that, guys, I will see you Saturday, where hopefully Dread will be leading, and I will just be putting everybody's comments up, whatever, and she will be. So we'll see if she comes up with a topic, but I'm pretty sure she will. So until next time, everyone. Peace.